Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we do have rain warnings issued because we've still got very saturated ground and still some bouts of precipitation coming up over the next 48 hours. We'll then have a look at the latest from the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature, as it's still remaining very unsettled over the next few days, but as we head into next week, it's turning a lot colder as we start to put in higher pressure and an easterly flow, and it'll also be turning a lot drier as well. Nothing imminently very cold, just generally below average with overnight frosts and cold daytime temperatures. Anything really cold, as I said in yesterday's video, probably going to be around the 10th of December if that pattern does come off. And then we'll have a look at, of course, in this video, the GFS, GM, ECMWF and the Ensembles, at the possibility, again, of that real cold weather coming in towards sort of around the 10th of December, around that sort of period. We could start to really put in an Arctic air mass. As at the moment, the continent isn't too cold, so we're in chilly conditions, but nothing ridiculously cold. We have to wait for those Arctic air masses to come round the higher pressure block towards the UK, so we'll have to look at that in the longer range. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if you start on the live radar, you can see we do have a lot of precipitation around at the moment, pushing in from the west. It's going to give quite a washout day for many western areas. Again, it doesn't look too severe yet, as of around 1 PM as I'm recording this, but it will continue to sort of pep up and hold its sort of form over the course of the next sort of 6 hours or so. And yeah, give it quite a horrible day for many in the west, and we do have rain warnings issued for some of this as well. It will slowly push eastwards and probably disintegrate as it does, but still most areas will see thicker cloud and rain over the course of this afternoon and evening. Put on the temperatures of around 1 PM, you can see it's not particularly cold today, actually quite mild, with that westerly wind coming in, pushing in quite a mild air mass in. So a lot of yellows here, so temperatures in around the low teens, sort of 11 to 13 degrees probably, but where we see those blues are slightly colder, especially over the higher ground. So you can see, yes, a little bit chilly, but nothing ridiculously cold, but just around average for this time of year. If you put on the weather warnings, you can see that we do have many rain warnings today issued for sort of prone areas. We've got across parts of Scotland, 12 PM today until midnight. Again, heavy rain may lead to some flooding and disruption. Again, 20-30 millimetres possible, maybe 45 again, due to the saturated ground. Another rain warning across parts of southern Scotland from 2 PM today until midnight tonight. Again, 20-30 millimetres, maybe 50 to 60 millimetres, and again, given wet ground, some flooding. If we zoom out and go down to the south, across parts of southern Wales, we do have 2 PM until 6 AM. We've got this rain warning across southern Wales and southern England. Again, 15 to 25 millimetres widely, maybe 40 to 60 millimetres, and again strong winds as well. And again, it's all because of the saturated ground. Again, high likelihood, low end of the impact matrix. So if you are in these areas, you're probably more prone to some issues from this rainfall. But again, I'm not expecting anything too crazy. Just really where we have saturated ground at the moment, there could be some surface water issues. Now, if we do over to the UKV and have a look at the precipitation and temperature over the next 5 days. Now, you can see that rain pushing in at the moment, giving quite heavy precipitation over the course of today and just continuing to push in all through this afternoon and the evening, perhaps pepping up through the late hours of tonight. But as we head into tomorrow, more rain pushes into the south and the east, but it is generally drier for sort of central areas. Further westwards, showers pushing in. As we head through Sunday evening into Monday, you can see those showers continue to push in, but again, will remain more for the far west. Through Monday afternoon, those showers across parts of southern Wales, southern England, elsewhere, not as widespread. And as we head into Tuesday, more precipitation pushing up from the south and the west. And again, that could give some more heavier rain for Republic of Ireland through Tuesday into Wednesday. And as we head into Thursday again, you can see it's starting to turn drier in the south and the east. That's that higher pressure building up, and it will start to turn it much colder in from the east coming later next week as we head into the first few days of December. Again, doesn't look ridiculously cold, but if we put on the 2 metre temperatures, you'll see how those temperatures do decrease significantly over the course of the next 5 days, from around sort of 12 degrees today down to more towards 4 or 5 degrees this time next week. So you can see today's temperatures peaking around that 10 to 12 degree range in the south and the east, maybe 14 degrees across parts of the Republic of Ireland. And as we head into Sunday, overnight temperatures not particularly cold at all, hanging around the high single digits. Tomorrow, again, maybe 10, 11 degrees in the south and east. Behind the cold front, maybe 7, 8 degrees in the showers in the north and the west. And into Monday, overnight temperatures once again dropping down to maybe 5, 6 degrees, nothing too majorly cold. And into Monday afternoon, you can see only 8 or 9 degrees there, cold across Scotland. That is showing the times are changing. And as we head into Tuesday, overnight frost in the north and the west, slightly milder further southwards with thicker cloud, but it will be turning widely more frosty later this coming week. And we into Tuesday again, look at that, daytime highs only 6 or 7 degrees quite widely, really quite chilly. And into early hours of Monday, widespread frost across the spine of the British Isles. And into Wednesday again, look at that, 4 or 5 degree highs in many northern areas. Further southwards, maybe 6 to 8, and across the coast maybe 10 degrees. And then to Thursday there, across the south where we're escaping that precipitation in the north and west, widely towards freezing. So it is turning much colder later this week, and this is really only down to the inversion. No actual cold or really cold air masses pushing in, really only an inversion within the surface temperatures. So given the longer range, looking at how those upper air masses do reduce, these sort of temperatures will become the norm, if not colder, as we head towards sort of the first half of December. So we do go over to the GFS today and have a look what that's showing in the longer term. It is another quite cold run, another ridiculously cold run really, and this would be producing widespread snowfall probably in around that sort of 10th of December point. Now if we move on beyond that, you can see high pressure builds in, brings in the easterly winds, and then we do see colder air does try and push in, but nothing ridiculously cold for next week. Just initially a little bit frosty and foggy. That high pressure though retrogresses up towards Greenland, and look at that, a bitterly cold northerly wind pushes in for the 6th and the 7th of December, and we stay blocked and cold, and all these lows trying to spin up from the south and the east, which produce widespread snowfall once again. Again, the upper air temperatures are not ridiculously cold. It's very difficult this time of year to get ridiculously cold upper air temperatures, just because those air masses are not as cold as they are generally in January or February. But it is cold enough to produce some widespread winteriness. So you can see not ridiculously cold upper air temperatures, but you put on the potential equivalent temperatures, look at those darker blues pushing in. Cold enough for winteriness, and again the temperature deviation, look at that widespread blues for a good 5 days plus there, so turning very cold indeed. And again, even if this wind veered slightly more from an easterly direction, less of a sea track, then it could be even colder as we head through the first 10 days of December. Now, the thing is, you've got to see consistency, and we are seeing that from the GEM. High pressure building in later this week, starting to put an easterly wind in, and that blocking is retrogressing towards Greenland. Again, not pulling anything off ridiculous because it only goes to day 10, but it would be turning colder there initially, then potentially starting to spiral up a slightly milder air mass from the southeast. But look at that high pressure moving towards Greenland, ready to plunge in cold air from Svalbard, Scandinavia and Russia. Look at that huge cold pool up there, darker blues there, minus 15 to minus 20 degrees at 850 HPA. That would be flooding our way. And again, look at the temperature deviation, ridiculously cold, 12 degrees below average out to our east. That could be pushing in, and again around that 10th of December point. If we compare it to the ECMWF, again westerly winds at the moment, but high pressure building in, putting an easterly wind in. And once again, it goes slightly milder at day 10, with the wind veering more from a southeasterly, but the blocking's still there and it's moving towards Greenland. You can see that lower pressure spiralling around it towards Scandinavia, and you'd expect this cold air to be flooding into Europe, or at least some of it flooding into Europe in sort of the mid to longer range, around that day 10 to day 14 time frame. So yeah, all 3 runs today, still showing the blocking, showing cold easterly winds for the first few days of December, perhaps a slightly milder spell for a couple of days while the blocking repositions, and then it could go incredibly cold around that 10th of December point. If we do finish by having a look at the ensembles and comparing them, again you can see we are well below average for the foreseeable future. The next day or two, slightly above average, and then it does go ridiculously cold in terms of just consistency. They're a good couple of degrees below average, and that's taken into account milder outliers at the moment. You can see most stay around that -2 to -4 degree area, which isn't quite cold enough for snow, but any of those around the -5, which could become more frequent around that 6th to 12th of December point, that's cold enough for winteriness. And of course in the north, those parameters are slightly milder actually because of elevation. So -2 to -4 is cold enough for snow in the north, so I wouldn't be surprised to be seeing a lot of winteriness and a lot of very cold conditions in the north and especially over higher ground. Again, you can see that slight bump around the 6th of December as the high pressure positions itself. We're seeing that a little bit more pronounced on the ECMWF ensembles, but pretty much consistently dry and most ensemble members very cold. Again, you can see it emphasised on the dew points, very cold dew points, getting towards freezing in the longer term, showing cold continental Arctic air masses pushing in, and some going ridiculously cold. Those are putting in real bitterly cold air masses. And again, look at the 2 metre temperatures all trending downwards towards daytime highs of 5 or 6 degrees, overnight temperatures towards freezing. Again, not ridiculously cold. That is sort of average to maybe slightly below average for January, February time in London. But for December and early December, it's a good few degrees below average. And of course, feel like temperature is going to make it feel colder. And of course, this is averaged. We take out some of those milder ensemble members, more likely 3 or 4 degrees. And again, if we finish by looking at the ECMWF ensemble members, you can see once again they are generally well below average. You see that bump around the 6th of December. Again, quite a bit of scatter around, but mostly the trend is still average to below average conditions. And even some of those more average runs, they're still putting the blocking in, still pulling the easterly wind in. It's just not quite a mild air mass at the upper levels. Towards the surface, though, it would still be chilly. So the pattern is still there, still looking incredibly cold as we head into December. Well below average, looking likely. Could we see something incredibly cold, something very snowy? We'll have to wait and see more towards the 10th of December, and we'll only really be able to decipher that probably within the next sort of 5 to 7 days. So we'll have to wait a little bit longer to be seeing any winteriness. But blocking is on its way. It is going to be pulling chilly conditions, potentially very cold conditions as well, and it's nice to see this verifying from what we've been seeing within the model output the last couple of weeks and what we've been seeing in the winter look aheads as well earlier in the autumn. So it's nice to see that our longer range predictions are starting to verify, but we'll have to look at the exact day-to-day conditions over the course of the next week or two. So make sure to stay tuned for that, because I'm sure we're going to be having a look at lots of snow charts as we head into the next week or two, as it does look likely with these sort of air masses around, it could be quite a few marginal snow events happening, and if we did see a real cold air mass, it'd be more just pronounced snow events. So we'll have to see what happens over the next few weeks, but it is just definitely turning colder. That's the one thing we can say, colder and drier. So do make sure you wrap up warm next week and into the next few weeks as we head towards Christmas. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.